Hi, I'm Jo Taylor and welcome to the Misadventures podcast. So this week we've got Elf Lyons on the episode with us, telling us all about her romances abroad.
Romances?
Which are somewhat questionable, I feel.
Very questionable.
Yeah, very questionable. And obviously her first love, the Isle of Wight. We're going to hear all about that just in readiness for Stamps to go on his 10-day adventure around the Isle of Wight himself with the rest of his family. Are you excited, Stamps? Are you looking forward to it? Has Alf got you ready for your holiday?
Yes, I am raring to go.
Fantastic. Alf gave you a few places to go and visit. Hopefully you'll go see them. We'll get some pictures.
I will send some pictures. I will send some videos of me in my Lycra because I'm taking my bike and I'm planning on cycling.
Oh my God.
You love seeing me in Lycra.
I've never seen you in Lycra.
Well, it's a treat for the eyes.
And it never crossed my mind that I would have to fight to not have to see you in Lycra through my life. So obviously I know that you've been doing this cycling thing. It never occurred to me that you wore Lycra as you're doing it. I'm quite happy to hear about your cycling. You send me the little routes that you do. All of that has been fine. But now the game has changed because when you tell me about your cycling now, all I'm doing is seeing you in Lycra.
Hang on. Do you want me to change the game for you again? You're not allowed to wear pants.
Oh no! What do you mean you're not allowed to wear pants? There's who?
It's against the rules. It's against the cycling rules.
No, what rules?
You have to go commando.
Why?
You do, so you don't get...
There's who?
Less chafing, minimum movement. Best thing, I guess, to be honest, would be naked, but I'm not sure if that would be frowned upon.
You don't want to sit on a bike naked.
Some people might.
Good God.
So you wear skin-tight little bib shorts with no pants on and your anti-chafing cream rubbed into your bum cheek.
I never knew this. Right, obviously Lycra doesn't normally leave much to the imagination, but this is a whole new perspective for me. When I drive past them cyclists now,
Oh yeah, they've got no pants on.
I know straight away they haven't got any bloody pants
No,
on.
they haven't. If they have, then they don't know what they're doing.
They've left their bills at home.
Yeah.
My goodness me. What if you have an accident and the Lycra rips?
Well, then your little fellow hangs out, doesn't he?
Oh my God. Oh dear.
Unless it's a cold day. Anyway.
This is so not where I thought this conversation was going to go.
No, let's go back to the Isle of Wight.
Yeah, please.
I mean, let's be honest. Alf should work for the Isle of Wight tourist board. She makes the Isle of Wight sound like the greatest place in the world.
I'm not sure I'm not sure she sold it. That's a bit of a tongue twister. I'm not sure she sold it to me.
There you go. That was really good. Half the places she spoke about have been demolished or burnt down or just don't
there is
exist
that.
anymore.
Stamps is going to go on his jolly holidays, and it is just in time as this is going to be the last episode of this season of the Misadventures podcast.
But haven't we had a nice time?
It's been bearable. I mean, the guests have been brilliant. Otherwise, everything else has been just bearable.
So yeah, this is the finale, which I'm sure we'll talk about more in the outro. So we won't dwell on it now because I'll just get upset, to be honest. Maybe have a little cry. On with the episode!
So, this is a travel podcast, even though we've put the world to rights already and everything like that. So, we'll just go straight into it. Alf, joining us on the Misadventures podcast. You have been to Mauritius and you have been there and done scuba diving.
I've done a multitude of things in Mauritius, some which are probably too shocking for the ears.
Oh, they're the ones we want to hear.
Yeah, please don't leave them
For the
out.
listener, do we just tease them with some facts, or do you want me to just get straight into the meat and vegetables?
Oh, I like a little tease.
Yeah, let's try that. Let's try a tease, and then we'll, tick off the little parts of it. Yeah.
The meat and veg.
Good God.
We'll just give them the tip.
Because that's always delightful, isn't it? That's always what you want.
Yeah. just the tip.
Tease of the tip.
The tease of the tip in Mauritius.
Yeah.
Now, just to set the scene, it was a family, all-inclusive holiday. We normally went to the Isle of Wight, and we thought, you know what? We're going to push the boat out. We're going to get on a plane, and we're going to go somewhere where our Irish skin will not be able to cope.
It's another island, isn't it?
It is another island, quite different to Ireland, but yes, you are technically correct.
Is this the first time any of your family have been abroad then?
No, my dad had flown abroad a lot for his work because he travelled loads to China. But we normally, as a family, for holidays, we went for the first 2 weeks of July, Isle of Wight, Ocean Hotel, Room 72. We saw the same families every single year. Callum's family from Wigan, Louise.
Lifelong friend.
Louise from Bingley. You just knew each, because when you're little and you go on holiday and you meet all the kids by like the pool, or you meet all the kids by like the games room or wherever, you'd be like, where are you from? Yeah. I'm from here. So you'd be like, John from Hull. And that was how you all make friends. Matthew, whose dad liked to wax his chest quite openly by the swimming pool.
Oh, that's disgusting.
In hindsight, we thought he was odd, but he was probably, for the women, sort of like the Tom Selleck of
the Isle of Wight.
1996 was a good year for Matthew's dad. I was obsessed with the Isle of Wight. I wanted to buy that hotel. I cannot convey to you how much I loved this hotel, the Ocean Hotel in Sandown on the Isle of Wight. And we did the same thing. And there was Ken and June. Every night they would do the entertainment. They'd do the bingo. They do dingbats, and you'd get lots of different coach trips of different sort of elderly people who are sort of like one level before Ghost, all coming to stay at the hotel.
Just a step down from Spirit.
One level before Ghost.
There was always in the morning an ambulance that was just wheeling out, and we'd be like, oh no, did something awful happen? They were like, nah, just someone went. It was just a place where you went.
I got overexcited with the bingo.
So this was it. On Tuesdays was the children's fancy dress, and on Fridays was the adult fancy dress. And my dad and I went as the Tartan Vicar one year when I was 12, and he was, a bit older, and we won. And it was, in hindsight, everything about drama I learned at the Sandown Ocean Hotel.
The rest of my life choices make sense.
Oh my god.
Joe already knows this, but on July the 14th, I am going to the Isle of Wight for 10 days.
I was waiting for this.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm taking my bike because it's not that big, the Isle of Wight. So I was going to cycle around it. I might have to go to the Ocean Hotel.
Can I break your heart though?
Oh, don't tell me it's gone.
This is actually horrific. So let me build up. I don't want to just go straight in. We're still at the top of the tips. We haven't even got to Mauritius yet. We haven't even got on the ferry from the Isle of Wight.
You'll be telling me Black Gang Chine's been knocked down next.
Well, Black Gang Chine is constantly disappearing. Well, with it being on a cliff edge. But,
yeah, just bit by bit.
But Thursday night, fancy dress competition adults, and no adults want to do it. And I was about 13, 14,
Yeah.
Sort of at that age where you're still quite childish, but you're also becoming quite aware of boys and girls and kind of wanting to look a bit cool. My body was changing. I was really tall. I put on weight quite quickly. And Ken came up to me and, look, because you are so good at the fancy dress, because I did it every time, because we stayed there for 2 weeks, and I would do the kids, and I would really commit, and I would sometimes enter in multiple times because I was very keen to get placed.
Drama student in you.
Yeah.
Method acting.
Honestly, I was incredible. Some of the stuff that I pulled out, like I learned poems, I did Cleopatra, I did a death scene.
Oh my god.
Like people my dad did Old Spice. That was what he did, and he dressed up as the Spice Girls' dad. Like, this is the type of humour, because it was when the Spice Girls were really big, and he dressed up as Old Spice. What? So this is like as 90s as it gets. They came up to me and they said, no one wants to do it, but look, we've got a gorilla costume. Could you wear it and just run around the hotel?
Oh my goodness.
And the hotel did look like the Overlook Hotel, and it was quite like known for being haunted because so many people had died there. And I just ran round the hotel. They made me run into the restaurant whilst people were eating because they didn't do it in the evening after everyone had already had their set meal at 6:30 and then go to watch the bingo. They did it. They came up to me beforehand. And so I did it whilst people were still eating like their Knickerbocker Glories and their raspberry Ripple ice creams.
How many pensioners keeled over that night?
Oh my God, I think we lost 4.
It was a bad night.
I loved this place. And there were 3 boys. They were the nephews of Mr. Conway, who ran the hotel. And we called them the 3 Matthews because none of us knew their names, but they were so beautiful, these 3 boys.
Why Matthew?
I don't know. I think it was because they had the sort of, I think at the time, Matthew was like our favourite disciple. I can't remember. We were really, really religious. So...
He's the fit one.
He was the fit one in my head. So we were obsessed with the 3 Matthews.
What, from the Last Supper scene? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's one of the big ones in the book. Yeah.
In the book.
They were all 2 years apart. So there was like a young one, then there was a teenage one, then there was the older
Holy
one.
Trinity.
So for me and my little sister, the Holy Trinity of Christian Catholic core. And me and my sister were like obsessed with them. And I still remember them coming to me in the playroom. And this was where we'd all play table tennis, which was what we'd all do in the games room, play table tennis. And then during the day, you go to the pool, which was one of those old-fashioned 1960s kidney-shaped swimming pools with a dolphin at the bottom.
Nice.
And a plaster.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there were so many plasters at the bottom.
Oh, God.
Do you always remember being told about, the thing at the bottom that sucks out the dirt? The thing at the bottom of the swim. Did you ever really get told about how dangerous those were and how you could drown? And there was a kid who got their hair trapped in. We always got told.
Pulling you under
we always
the
got
water.
told, like, if your hair gets trapped in that, you will die. There was a child who died. There were so many children who died from swimming in a swimming pool, which is probably true. But we had this crippling fear, all of us, about the sucker. And it was right next to the dolphin at the bottom of the kidney-shaped pool and was right next to the dolphin's nose. And so there was this dare, if you were brave enough to swim and touch the dolphin's nose. Like, I cannot convey how great life was before technology. I remember because it was when the Harry Potter books came out as well. And I was reading the Harry Potter book and the oldest of the Matthews came in because there was a telephone there. And I think he might have been ringing a girlfriend. Who knows? But the point is, he came into the room and I still remember what I was wearing because I bought it from Charisma, which was the shop on the high street. I still remember it so well.
Was that the shop, though?
It was the shop. You could get everything was flammable. Everything was flammable. And it was just a highlight. But he came up to me. He's like, so what are you reading? And I was like, I'm reading Harry Potter. And he'd never spoken to me before. And he's like, oh, cool. I like Harry Potter. And I thought, oh my goodness.
Oh, my goodness.
And then he said, who's your favourite character? And I said, heroine. Because I couldn't say Hermione. Like, I just couldn't say Hermione's name. So I thought her name was Heroine. And he laughed. And then he got his middle brother cut. And then the youngest Matthew came in. They were all laughing. And I was humiliated. And so the way I dealt with it was, do you remember the Maybelline advert where they'd swish their hair and go, because I'm worth it?
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness.
I did that. I remember swishing my hair and going, I'm worth it. And then I walked off and then just burst into tears. But actually, when I got signed by my first agent, when I was 24, and it was the day I got signed, and it was like such a big deal. Me and Faye Tracy, Sam Dodgen, Tamar Broadbent, we were booked to perform at, oh my God, this is such a so we were booked at the Isle of Wight Festival.
Nice.
Oh.
We were booked to do comedy on the same time that Fleetwood Mac were performing. So there was absolutely no chance. And we were being basically being told, do you want to just perform? We won't pay you, but we'll give you some tickets. But when we got there the day early, and it was my 10th, it was my birthday, 10th of June, just for anyone interested, Gemini. And I'd been signed the day before, so I was really jizzed with excitement. Sam and Faye were like, what do you want to do for your birthday? And I said, I'd really like to go to the Ocean Hotel Isle of Wight because I've not been back since I was about 14. So we got the longest bus that took us 2.5 hours, literally through the whole of the Isle of Wight. We got to Sandown. It was a ghost town. We turn up at the hotel. it's like empty. It's full of old people. Ken and June aren't there. The bar, obviously, everyone's different.
Oh.
But I'm absolutely high as a kite on life. And I say to the bartender, I came here every single year as a child. I made Faye and Sam take pictures of me everywhere because it was exactly the same. Then someone says, you know, Mr. Conway's still here. And they said to him, they were like, Mr. Conway, there's a very mad woman in the foyer. Mr. Conway came out and he was like, oh, hello. And I was like, Mr. Conway, it's me, Emily Ann. Remember I did the Tarn Vicar with my dad? And he was like, oh, I remember your parents. And we were chatting. And he was like, why are you here? And I was like, this is the most important place of my life. I want to get married here. I got quite drunk and I had said, when are you closed? And they were like, November. And I was like, so would you take a booking for a wedding? And they were like, yes. And I was like, I'm going to get married here. And then they said, look, do you want to have dinner? So on the house, even though the restaurant was closed, me, Sam and Faye had dinner. We had the starter and it was the same menu. And we had,
amazing.
I had raspberry ripple. We had 2 bottles of wine. I was so drunk. I tipped everyone £20. You know, when you're just like, you feel like an absolute legend.
Just euphoric.
Yeah. It was just the best day of my life. And then anyway, my parents went to the Isle of Wight. I think they went at the end of last year, you know, when lockdown had eased. And I can't remember what had exactly happened, but I think they had been drunk and they booked themselves a ferry to the Isle of Wight. And my mum and dad, they did this thing. They were on their iPhones and they were filming on the WhatsApp group. They were like, this is a video. We're driving into Sandown. 50p to who can see the sea first. And because, you know, you used to have this game, who can spot the Ocean Hotel first? Who can spot the library? So they were doing the same drive and it was all really like ghost town. Loads of the places had closed. And then it pulled up to the Isle of Wight, to the Ocean Hotel. And there was like these yellow pieces of card all over the doors and cardboard. And then it drove down and you could just hear my mum and dad's voices sort of choking. And then it was like completely derelict and the swimming pool had been completely knocked down and was empty. The front had been completely closed up and it was just completely closed. And what happened was someone had bought it off Mr. Conway to then turn it into another hotel. And then basically, I don't know what happened, just went bankrupt or didn't do it. So they were in the middle of knocking it and redoing it. And then they've just left it completely as it is. So it's this complete, like, overgrown, empty, like, old Victorian hotel.
Like a carcass of a hotel.
Beautiful place. And I mean, honestly, if you wanted to just cycle past it and maybe leave some flowers. But I was actually thinking about this yesterday because I thought if I ever won the lottery,
you'd buy it.
I would buy it. I would buy it and I would turn it into like a really nice like family hotel / drama school.
And you kind of like try and recreate what it was.
Look, it's so hard to recreate perfection. We can try, but it was so old school. And like Ken would always dress up as Santa Claus at Christmas.
Oh my God.
And it was just like, it was the best place. I had my first kiss there with a boy called Sam, who was 11.
Not one of the Matthews.
No, I never know what happened to the Matthews. So I got into a bit of a, you know, when it's like late into the night and you and your friends are like, oh my God, do you remember so-and-so? And you end up going to like a Facebook, Instagram time hole.
Yes.
I was like, I wonder if I can find Mr. Conway's nephews. And I was like, what were their names? I was like, Matthew. I was like trying to find the details of Mr. Conway on the internet. I'm not proud of that because that does sound like a very shitty detective.
Everyone's done it though. Everyone has done it.
It was just a big part of my life.
Did you find them?
No, I've never found them. So actually, you know what? If we really, really market this to the Isle of Wight group,
find the 3 Matthews.
Wow. So I'm supposed to have an actual job on this podcast, which is to research things whilst people are chatting. So I have just looked for the Ocean Hotel in Sandown. I've got good news and bad news, Alf, I'm afraid. So the bad news is on the 9th of May this year, somebody set fire to it. Vandals set fire to the hotel.
Do you know what's awful is I can hear you smiling, delivering that news to me.
So The hotel and the King's Bar, apparently.
Oh my God, the King's Bar. Oh my goodness. There was a guy called Mark there who was so wonderful. And there was a really lovely man called David who, this is actually quite sad actually. David was very, very young and he always kept he had a taxidermy tarantula behind the bar. And he would always show it to us and he always gave us sweets. And then one day, he was really young. He said, "Oh, I don't feel well. I've got the flu." And then he died.
Okay, then.
Anyway, sorry, but I mean, I'm just telling you that there is quite an extensive history there.
Well, so since then, it's only been, 10 days? Some squatters have now overtaken the hotel and they claim they have been researching the heritage of the seafront property and intend to occupy and clean up the mess.
That's fantastic.
Charles Darwin stayed there, apparently. Lewis Carroll stayed there.
And the Ocean Hotel?
At the Ocean Hotel, yeah.
Oh my God.
There you go.
That's amazing.
So there are a load of squatters there who are calling for volunteers. So if you're listening and you want to go and help preserve the Ocean Hotel.
Are you actually, honest to God? I'm literally going to do...
Oh my God, Al's going to go. She's going.
I don't have any plans for the summer.
Honest to God, get on Google and have a look. It is on the news. iwradio.co.uk. Fire breaks out, and then shortly after, squatters have taken up residence at the property.
I'm literally typing this in at the same time. Honestly, it's one of the best places of my life.
You never know. Maybe the three Matthews will turn up and help out as well.
It was honestly the most beautiful place in the world. So, you can actually see where the three Matthews lived in that picture.
We'll put some pictures on the social media for this because otherwise this is going to be really weird for the people listening. If you're one of the three Matthews, please get in touch.
Yeah, don't be mistaken. Your name may not be Matthew. There's a good chance it won't be.
I love that people like trying to take it back.
That's just, I mean, honestly, that has genuinely made me feel very emotional. Oh. It's such a beautiful, it was honestly the happiest times of my life. But this then leads on to Madeira, which was then like a complete game changer. I said Madeira when I meant Mauritius. Madeira, oh my God, that was a nightmare of a family holiday. Oh my God.
I'm too invested in the Isle of Wight.
When your parents, though, were like, guys, guess what? We're not going to the Isle of Wight this year. We're going to Mauritius. What was your reaction? If you loved going to hotel in the Isle of Wight.
Oh, yeah, were you torn?
I was so upset. I cannot express to you how upset I was because it was just my whole world. I loved it so much.
So how old were you for the Mauritius trip?
So the last year we went to the Isle of Wight, I was about 14.
Right, okay.
Because me, my sister and my brother had all learnt to walk on that dance floor. So we all went, like, that was where we all learnt to walk. And like, it was the first place my mum ever took me as a baby when my dad was away because she wanted to find a hotel that had a payphone so she could ring my dad. So there were all these sorts of reasons. But
this is amazing. My kids learnt to walk in a haven. We got them like we were at one end of the dance floor each.
That's so beautiful.
I'm like reliving my life.
But just think of all the other families that you used to holiday with that would go at the same time, and then all of a sudden, your family, 1 year, just doesn't turn up.
No, I wonder what they thought had happened to you.
They must have been like, oh my God.
No, I think people, because we were all pen pals, and I think we just started getting, I think I got a Nokia 3310 by this point. So like we were texting. So I think we told them, we're not going this year. And then I think the groups, because the parents would originally all book the same 2 weeks.
What if that was the year the eldest of the Matthews was like, oh my God, right.
Yeah.
I've loved her from afar for so long. This is the year when she comes, I'm going to tell her. I'm just going to lay it all on the line. I'm going to tell her.
Could you
and
imagine?
then you never turned up.
Yeah. And I never turned up. I do remember there was a nightclub called Colonel Bogies. And this is actually true. Colonel Bogies was the nightclub in Sandown. And they always had a celebrity who had been on EastEnders, but from like 20 years before.
Oh, yeah. Just come out and say hello.
And I remember being desperate. So there was one night when Ken and June weren't doing the children's entertainment. And there was this other guy, and he had a really young son. He was about 15, 16. So he was like really hot for me, 14 years old. Yeah. And his dad, I remember this, his dad put on disco music and the entertainment was his son doing the dance routines from, what is it? You know that film with John Travolta in it?
Saturday Night Fever.
Saturday Night. So we did that. Did all the pelvic thrusts and stuff. Anyway, he and I, we went to play ping pong and he was like, I might be going to Colonel Bogies later. And I was like, well, I am actually going to Colonel Bogies as well. And I begged my dad. I said, Dad, could you please take me to Colonel Bogey's? And my dad was like, is that a nightclub? And my mum was like, just take her, Jared. Just take her. So I made a really big deal in the playroom. So you've got all the kids of all different ages. And I'm one of the older kids. I'm 14. So I'm kind of like, cool now.
Yeah.
Like I can sit on the ledge above the pool table, which you couldn't reach if you were little, but once you've grown, you could, you
made it now.
So I was like, guys, I'm actually not going to play hide and seek in the dark with you all, which is what we always played. I'm going to go to Colonel Bogey's. My dad's taking me to a nightclub. And then
my dad's taking me.
We just need to clarify this. When you say my dad's taking me, did you mean your dad was going to drive you there and drop you off and leave you, or you were going to be chaperoned for the evening by your dad?
I don't know, because either way, neither of those are good. Yeah. He took me to the club. I remember this because it was right by Wight City, which was like this games part of Sandown. It was right by the Dinosaur Museum, which used to have a really beautiful glass art structure. There was a really great place in Sandown called Glory Art Glass. I'm not sure if they're still going, but the guy who made glass there was just incredible. But the point I'm trying to make is we got to Colonel Bogey's, and guys, I cannot convey to you how much closure this is giving me.
I'm writing my itinerary for my holiday when I go next week.
Yeah.
I will give you a list.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Sam, you should do a little tour and then we can put it on our Insta story.
That's it. You send me a list, Alf, and then I'll go and I'll take pictures of what everything looks like now, and then I'll send them to you.
Oh my God, that would be the funniest and the saddest thing. The Isle of Wight pier, the Sandown pier. But we got to Colonel Bogey's, and I remember the doorman just being like, well, where's your ID? And I didn't really, because I was 14, I was sort of looking to my dad to do the adult thing to get me into the nightclub. And then the guy was like, she's definitely not 18. She's not coming in. My dad was like, yes, she is. And then the guy was like, who are you?
Oh my God.
And then he was basically looking at this older man who's just trying to get this girl into a nightclub.
Oh,
I mean, whatever he says at this point, there's no good answer.
No, there is not.
I'm either a dad or a boyfriend. Both of them are not good.
Yeah, so we walked home and then he dropped me back off in the playroom. And as I entered, everyone was like, oh, did you not go to Colonel Bogey's? And everyone was laughing at me. So I was like, shut up. Do you want to play hide and seek in the dark? Which is such a fun game. You basically, there was...
Do you want to play hide and seek or what?
There was a pool table and a ping pong table, and then we're in the same room, and the next door was the soft play creche bit, which when I went on my 24th birthday, they still had the exact same equipment in the soft play centre. And I sat on all of it, and I did cry because I was like, I can't remember learning to climb on this. But anyway, we just turn all the lights off and you just run around and chase each other. It was just the best. But yeah, so when we stopped going, I was really, really upset.
So you were upset when your parents, when they told you weren't going anymore?
I still am.
Tainted your Mauritius holiday.
Oh.
I'm not going to lie. I've been to some beautiful places. I've been to Alaska. I've been to Mauritius. I've been to Madeira. I've been to Ireland. I've been to Australia, but nothing to me compares to the Ocean Hotel of Isle of Wight. It's just perfect. I loved it so much.
I'm a little bit devastated that I can't go and have a drink there and relive it.
Well, hopefully if these squatters remake it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, that genuinely gives me joy. But we went to Mauritius, which was a completely different type of holiday.
Oh yeah, Mauritius.
Yeah.
The actual story.
I feel like all I've done is just talk and just do things that my therapist should have helped me with a lot earlier in my life.
This is amazing.
Oh, goodness.
What are you doing in the Isle of Wight?
Well, just go for a family holiday.
For 10 days.
There's me, my wife, our twin daughters, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, her sister, and my brother-in-law, and their 2 boys. So it's just exactly it's just a family holiday.
That is going to be so perfect. You're going to have such a... So if it's still open, oh my goodness, you've got to go into the Dinosaur Museum in Sandown if it's still going strong. Obviously, Black Gang Chine goes without saying.
What is that? What is it?
It's like the world's oldest theme park.
Oh, God.
It's a bit weird. Me and my wife went to the Isle of Wight, how old are the girls now? They're 7. So when they were 3, it was the first time we got to take them on a ferry. We thought that'd be very exciting for them. So we went around nursery land and stuff at Black Gang Chine, went to the Needles, and then realised that there's actually no safety measures at all on the stair lifts, on the needles, while we had 3-year-olds just perched on our laps, dangling off a cliff.
That's so true. They really do not have. My shoes fell off at the needles.
Yeah, there's nothing. There's no bars. There's nothing. And I was like, just hold your child on your lap and we'll just push it, go over the cliff edge.
So Black Gang China. So my mum, there's an old video of my mum when she was really little in the 60s, like a family holiday video, which my nanny Squeak got sort of, I don't know, you know, when they translate old video footage and they make it onto a DVD, so you've got it all. We're watching it. And there's video of my mum when she's about 4 going round Black Gang China, and she's going round the wonky, you know, the Crooked House.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the Crooked House is, honestly, if you get to go, Joe, it's just mind-blowing because, like, you go in and it's covered in dust, like each room, because none of the rooms have been opened up since it was built. So, like, I watched a YouTube video of someone walking around it because I just wanted to remember what it was like. But it is fascinating, like some of the fairy castle, and there's this Grumpus's mansion, which I've also watched a YouTube video of. Oh my God, I think I did that on a date. I started telling someone about it on the phone and just got video footage out of it.
For kids, it's amazing because it's split up. So I went when I was little as well, and it's split up into areas. So there's like the Wild West town, but it's got like a saloon and a bank, you know, and you get to like sit on plastic horses, but they're all like life size. So you get to be a cowboy, and then there's like pirate ships. And they've got now, which I couldn't remember being there when I was little, which I, as an adult, when we went a few years ago, I thought was amazing. They've got real life snakes and ladders, but it's like up vertical.
Sorry,
like,
real life snakes and ladders or life size?
Life size. Yeah, sorry.
Right, so not real snakes.
No, not real snakes. But you have to like...
But are they real ladders or are they concepts of ladders?
Yeah. But you're like climbing up vertical ladders and you go down slides like these. Oh, and it's like massive up this cliff. It's so cool.
As opposed to climbing up horizontal ladders.
Yeah. Shut up, Joe.
Right.
Stop ruining my dreams.
Honestly, if you ever needed a babysitter for your family holiday and you just want someone to come with, guys, once you get sponsorship for this, let's go to fuck advertising. Let's go to the. Have you been to Red Hill? I think it's Red Hill or Robin Hill. Have you been to Robin Hill?
I think, is that the theme park?
It's like the really nature one where it's like really nature.
Yeah, I don't think we've been.
Oh, okay. You've got to go to Robin Hill because Black Gang China is amazing. But when I went to Robin Hill for the first time, I must have been about 8. My mind was blown because basically you go on this particular route and then eventually you end up in like this wonderland where there's a toboggan and the toboggan will blow your socks off.
Oh my goodness.
It's rock and roll. And there's like this cool thing that you can climb and pretend you're a squirrel, and it's really cool. I can't convey how amazing everything is.
So
Did you ever do waltzing waters?
I'm not as much of an expert on the Isle of Wight as you. The colossal swinging galleon. Oh, the toboggan. Oh, my life. Go
to Robin Hill. It's so good.
I don't know about stamps, but I really want to know what happened in Mauritius.
Oh, bugger Mauritius.
So this is what happened in Mauritius. And I don't know, in hindsight, you can decide, is this story funny or is it inappropriate? But we will never know.
Maybe it's both. And that's okay.
So we went to Mauritius and it was like a luxurious sort of like really hot. It was like an all-inclusive hotel where there were like 3 different swimming pools and, you know, there was like 3 restaurants and there was a kids camp and there was a teen camp.
Only a couple of plasters.
The plasters had all been put into different pools at different times and there was always a different poo in a different pool. But it was, you know... The kids were significantly more stuck up.
Yeah.
They weren't as friendly as the kids at the Isle of Wight, and I remember that. And I was 15, and I was quite curvy. I was 6 foot, and I was curving not in the way that you potentially are.
6 foot at 14?
Wow. Yeah, I was 6 foot very, very early on, which I'd always been slightly insecure about. So I looked a lot older. And you know when you're like a little bit curvy, puppy fat, and like it's not... You know, when puppy fat, it all goes around your face and your chin and like around your belly and like your upper arms, and then you have tiny boobs. And so And like at the time, it was like rah skirts and quite like all the fashions that looked hideous on me. And I didn't tan, so I was really pale, and I was desperate to like fit in with all these cool boys and cool girls. You can decide. In hindsight, I think this is so inappropriate. So we were in teenage camp, and one of the blokes who ran teen camps was like, what you all guys do is one night we'll get a car and we'll take you all to a nightclub and we'll get you all drinks.
That's all right, isn't it? No problem.
We all did it because we thought it was really cool, because the teen camp had signed and saying, oh, we're taking them to the other sister hotel to meet other teenagers.
Yeah.
But they didn't. He took us to a nightclub
To get you all drunk.
I remember getting us all drunk. And I was with my sister. And the thing is, it wasn't even a nightclub. It was just another random hotel where they just didn't check your ID. So like he was buying us all shots. I was like, this seems a bit weird. And then all of us went back to the beach when we got back to the hotel. We were like, wow, it's so cool. And I was thinking, this is a bit lame. I don't really like it. It doesn't feel nice.
Yeah.
So I said to my dad, I was like, I don't want to do teen club. Could I learn how to scuba dive? Because there was a scuba diving hut and they were doing scuba diving, like it was really luxurious. And so they spoke and they said you could do some lessons in the swimming pool. And there were these two guys, Rafi and Julian. And Rafi was really tall, really old school, had been a scuba diving instructor for years, like really all about the fish. And he told me, he was like, stay away from the guy at teen camp. The guy at teen camp isn't very nice.
Yeah.
Don't hang out there. He's a really peculiar guy. I've been trying to get him fired for ages. And I was like, I like Rafi. Julian was so gorgeous. Like, to give you sort of a vibe, he had sort of like, you know, Bruno Mars. Like he had sort of Bruno Mars vibes. Like beautiful big eyes, like really friendly, like really good looking, quite cheeky.
On a scale of 1 to Matthew.
Oh God, that is hard. I'm going to be honest. I actually think at this time, because my mind, he was different. Like he was from Mauritius. He loved fish. He knew loads about sharks. He was a scuba diving instructor, and he kept on taking the mick out of me, and he would really like take the mick out of me.
Obviously, that's really hot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so hot. He was like, you were like a seal. You were like a, he was like, you were like a big blubbery seal. You in the water, you're like a big blubbery seal line. Oh, look at you. You've got so much flubber on you.
And you're like, oh, don't.
And I was obsessed. And so he taught me to scuba dive in the swimming pool. And I was like really, you know, naive. And I was like chatting away to this person, like blah, 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 blah. And then they took us not ice skating. They took us
ice skating in Mauritius.
They took us scuba diving, and that was really exciting. And the whole way underwater, I was so nervous. He held my hand the entire time, and I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. And then my brother ran out of oxygen, but actually he was fine. But the point is, and I would then just pop down. I would pop down every single day, even though when the scuba diving lesson, to clarify, we were there for like, I think a week. So, but you know how when you're 15 and that first holiday and that first romance makes you just everything, every moment just feels like a lifetime. Yeah. So in my head, it was like weeks, but the reality was it was like 2 days quite consistently. I just hung out in the scuba diving hut and spoke to him and and then his friend got hit by a truck. I can't believe I forgot this. His mate there was 3 of them. So there wasn't just Julian and Rafi, there was another guy, but he got hit by a truck and he was actually in intensive care. And I was like, I will make him a massive card. So I made a huge get well present.
That's what you need.
And I brought it down.
It's a random girl.
Yeah, I made him like a huge get well card. He wasn't even the one that taught me scuba diving. But I went there, and I remember, because that was why Rafi and Julian were then like, oh, you can hang out here, because I think they thought I was like a good egg. And then one day I was just, you know, when you think you're being really cool as a 15-year-old, but what you're in fact doing is loitering.
Yeah.
I just like didn't leave the hut. Because all the other teenagers were really mean. They weren't particularly nice. And so I hung out with him, and then he was like, let me take you to the oxygen room. Oh. So he took me to the oxygen room.
How old is Rafi?
Oh, I know. This is a good question.
No, this isn't Rafi. This was Julian. But Julian definitely was 30.
Right.
Right. Okay.
So in hindsight,
he's all above board then. Do we know how old Rafi is?
Rafi was definitely in his 50s.
Oh, okay. You were there.
Can I just say, Raffi had no idea. Julian was like, I'm going to take you to the oxygen rooms. And then he kissed me, and I literally did not know what to do. And I'd never kissed anyone before. And I was like kissing him in the oxygen room. And then he was like, you're a terrible kisser. And I was just like, oh, well, I'm brand new. And then like,
what every guy wants to hear.
And then he was like, oh, do you want me to walk you along the beach? One thing I forgot to mention is this was in the morning. So this was like early in the day. And my family, I'd left the hotel room early to go to breakfast. And my parents and my whole family said, we'll meet you at breakfast. And it was a big complex. And so to let your 14-year-old go off, like, it was because I was pretty sensible. But I didn't turn up at breakfast, did I? So they couldn't get hold of me. Nobody knew where I was. And so suddenly you've got a 14-year-old girl who's gone missing.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not in the scuba diving hut because I'm in the oxygen tent or whatever the little room was where all the oxygen bits were. So they didn't find me there. And then, oh my God, anyway, basically they nearly sent a helicopter out to find me because I was gone for probably about 90 minutes or like, but like at a hotel, like that felt like a fucking long time. Yep. I got in so much trouble. I cannot convey to you. And I was there. And the next day, Julian didn't turn up to work and Julian wasn't there for the rest of the holiday.
Julian's been fired.
Yeah. Arrested.
I was devastated. I was so upset. And then Raffi was like, Julian will give you a phone call. And Julian rang me on the phone. He was like, hey, my little seal. How are you doing?
Oh
this is terrible.
My memory of it, obviously, being, this is the funny thing, how much this memory has obviously changed. Because then like, I still remember getting on the flight back. And then all the other kids who were really nasty, on the last day, they all came to say goodbye to me. They were like, bye. And I was like, oh, wow, you did like me. And they all came over to say goodbye and give me a cuddle. And then we got a phone call from the concierge saying, by the way, there's like a £300 bar tab on your hotel room because all the alcohol has been taken from your minibar. And these kids had basically just come in to say goodbye, but whilst chatting to me, had taken all the alcohol from the minibars, assuming that we'd get charged and no one would realise.
Oh, my life.
So you can understand why Julian seemed like an absolute angel in comparison to these other gnarly kids who you then subsequently all add on MySpace. And then everyone's like, oh my God, I miss you. How are you doing? And I'm like, oh, God. But anyway, so Julian added me on Facebook.
The 30-year-old.
Julian and I were
30-year-old.
We were Facebook friends for ages. I then, for my GCSE art project, did a painting of me and him.
Oh my God.
But also overlaid with a screen print of Noel Fielding.
What?
I love Noel Fielding. He is my man crush, but what?
What a combination.
And then Julian started messaging me years later because I then defriended him a few years later because I was like, actually, I think it's a bit odd. But then he kept on adding me.
Of course he did, because now you're old enough for him to not be put on the register.
And then he was like, hey.
That's it. I mean, this is definitely the first paedophile story we've had on the Misadventures podcast.
I'm so sorry. I can't believe the teachers brought out the nonsense info. I mean, and then he kept on messaging me and he was like, oh, I'm a DJ. And I was like, how's Raffi? And he was like, who? And I was like, Raffi, your boss. And he was like, I don't remember a Raffi. And I was like, what is wrong with people? And now I look back at that and I think, yeah, there was definitely a breach of trust.
I think there was a bit more than a breach of trust. It was
underlying connotations.
Honestly. There was a combined age between Raffi and Julian of 80 years old. Two people. That's too high for you to be hanging around with them on your own.
Yeah, but they were such good scuba diving instructors.
Oh, well, that makes it all okay then.
Look, I do realise no one comes out well in this story, but my defence is I was a 15, puppy-fatted kid who liked the Goo Goo Dolls and listening to Iris on repeat. I liked the fact there was someone who really liked fish. Who was really nice to me.
Oh my goodness.
I keep waiting for the female guest to come on this podcast that is going to make me think that my daughters are going to be fine when they go on holiday. You are not that person.
This is way worse than Lily's story. I feel.
It is.
I'm so
Lily just
sorry.
set her
I
face
feel
on
really
fire.
bad.
That's all she did. You've leveled up, I feel. You've leveled
Because
up.
in my head, when you were like, oh, funny stories about being on holiday, I was like, oh, the time I ran off with my scuba diving instructor, which sounds really funny. And then I suppose
It's an amazing story.
I suppose this is the interesting thing about growing up, isn't it? And about how times have changed. Because I
You
think,
romanticise the scenarios of men luring on underage girls.
But also, like 10 years ago, if this had been mentioned probably on a story, I think people would still be like, oh, what a funny story. I mean, I think the Isle of Wight's more hopeful.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
It sounds like it was more wholesome. What I will say is, when we had our little chat before doing the recording and you told me that there was an incident where you ran off with your scuba diving instructor, this is not what I had in mind.
I'm so sorry.
I thought it was going to be a case of that you'd travelled somewhere on your own and you were meant to be going home after a week and you just ended up bumming about with some hot scuba diver that didn't have his life together.
I'm so sorry. I feel like maybe in my head, I just didn't feel the need to clarify the age difference. Do you want me to re-age Julian as like 19 to make it a little bit more ethical?
No, because do you know what?
Just put 19 over everything, and Rafi is 22.
Oh, so the combined age now is the actual age of Rafi. Okay, that's what we're going for. I would actually say it's a bit of a nice surprise, because normally I know the stories that are going to come up, and it's a surprise for Stamps most of the time rather than myself. But tonight, I'm the one that's had the surprise as well as Stamps, so it's something new, and that's fine.
And I just want to clarify, I wasn't harmed in the making of that story. Like, I came out absolutely fine. Like, I just snogged a guy really badly in a room full of oxygen. Was made to feel like being called a seal was a compliment, which I was really happy about. And I ended up creating a piece of quite inventive artwork, which got me an A star at GCSE.
See, so if it wasn't for Julian, you'd never have got your A star.
And also, if he hadn't been there, my brother would have died underwater and any oxygen. And in hindsight, maybe if they'd spent more time checking the oxygen rather than luring teenagers.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is, it was a great holiday.
Yeah, and not damaging at all.
No, I honestly am. I'm more damaged by the Ocean Hotel being closed down.
If you hadn't been there, you'd have ended up back in teen club with that weirdo, and God knows what would have happened there.
Oh my God, they were so weird. So weird. But I think teen clubs are weird.
Yeah.
I think teen clubs at any hotel are weird.
It's an age where you probably don't want to be mixing with people that you don't know, because everyone is so different at that age.
Yeah.
And you just need one weirdo and it sort of changes the whole vibe of it.
Yeah, one Goo Goo Dolls loving seal and everything just goes out the window.
I love how I'm the weirdo in this case. I probably was.
But Mauritius wasn't your only romance abroad, was it? You've also, when you in Paris.
Oh my God, yes.
I love that there's more.
But please tell me that you were no longer a minor on this trip.
No, I wasn't a minor. I was of adult age at this point.
And the other person involved?
He was 25 years older.
Fantastic. Sounds good. Let's go with this one then, shall we?
I like the fact that you're consistent, though. It's like, as I'm levelling up, they're levelling up.
Yeah. I just like people whose backs are in worse condition than mine.
Right, so how old are we at this point?
So this was actually a couple of years ago. I was 24.
Okay.
Me and my friend Alex went to Paris. We were like, let's go to Paris and have a great weekend.
Is Alex a guy or a girl?
Alex is a guy.
Right, okay.
One of my dearest friends were like, let's go to Paris. He's like, we're going to stay at Laurent's house. And Laurent is my sort of cousin, but we're going to just stay at his house. And I was like, cool. And the front door opened and he stood there and he was as French can be. And he just looked at me and he went, wow.
And you melted.
Oh, yeah, I just like my vagina just fell out of me. And he went, you make me feel impossible.
Oh, he said that before.
What does that even mean?
We were meant to be sleeping in his kids' bunk beds, me and Alex.
Right.
And by the second night, I was not sleeping in the bunk beds.
Oh my God.
Oh, good Lord.
But it was one of those like really funny but like odd encounters where we ended up subsequently going out for about 9 months, and I like got to know his children, and I went on a family holiday and we went canoeing. But he was like the most French man. He'd be like, wow, there's some animals in the tree. It just makes you feel so happy about life. Let's fuck. Wow, I've just picked up a book and the pages make me think about mortality. Let's fuck. Wow, Effie, I've bought myself some saucisson and champagne because it is a Monday. Let's fuck.
And you're just like, okay.
And that was literally, it was just like, I was like, la, 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 wow, what a dream. I've always wanted to be a cliche. And I like, yeah, there's 3 children, one who was only a few years younger than me. And we all went on a family holiday together. And I had to be like, the like girlfriend being like, I don't think you should, I don't think you should be drinking anymore, Louis. And Louis like, you are not my mother. You are literally 3 years older than me. And I'm like, that is true. But I'm just going to tell you that you're not doing the shots properly. So
you're going to do it right.
And then his dad was a singer as well. And so,
of course he was.
Every night at dinner when we were away, like these family holidays, we'd just sing. We'd have to stand, we'd sing, we'd just do songs together.
This is wild.
Oh, this is amazing.
Hang on, but would they sing in French or sing in English?
We'd sing in English and French, mixture of both. It was just like a really wholesome, lovely, romantic 9 months of, English, French fun.
Yeah.
With a man who was very, very Parisian.
Why did it fizzle out?
Oh, I'm glad that you asked that.
Yeah. The heroin. I think it was mainly the
Oh my God. I don't know what's happening anymore. What is going on?
I should probably have changed the names for that story. A lot of it, obviously, comedic effect. It was a lovely relationship. But I mean, this is it. You just don't know who you're going to meet when you go on holiday.
Can we leave that bit in? Is that safe?
What, the heroin? As long as I categorically say that was a gag. That was delivered for comical purposes, and that is no way related to the reasons that our relationship in a holistic and organic manner came to an end.
There you go. End quote.
I will not be taking any more questions at this time.
Oh my goodness me. That's fine. That is fine. Is that the French dude done?
I feel like it is, because it's not got quite the same beginning, middle, and end of the other stories, unless we did just want to unpack a relationship.
I feel that we've left that at a good moment.
Yeah.
And now let's get on to Nearly Eaten by Sharks.
I can't cope with any more of this.
Well, we can go with sharks or bears. Which one do you want?
Oh, my God.
Oh, you know what? We'll do bears. Because the sharks story, I've told it quite a few times at school recently to get the year 7s on side. And, when you feel like you've delivered a piece of material too often.
Right, yeah. So you didn't think about sharing the story about Mauritius and the scuba diver instructors or the French dude?
No, I mean, it's not really relevant to the Titanic scheme of work that we're doing, but...
right, okay. Yeah.
So 2019.
Also, we're going recent now.
Yeah, really recent. 2019, I just had a big breakup.
With a French guy?
No, different one. Been in a serious relationship, and basically it didn't work out, and I was in this like state of like, who am I? Blah 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 blah, meeting new people and stuff. And I've never travelled on my own purely for pleasure. Like, I've travelled on my own for work, for gigs, but I've never gone on holiday on my own. And I needed something different. So I booked myself a holiday to Slovenia.
Okay.
Which is the most environmentally friendly place in Europe. If anyone knows, it's just absolutely incredibly beautiful. And I found this like eco cabin, like this eco-friendly, all wooden little hotel, quite cheap, like as affordable. And I got a little cabin for me, and I didn't have a phone, and I didn't have any technology or anything. I booked everything in advance, and I got there. I had 3 books: Northern Lights, My Year of Rest and Relaxation, and another novel by Europa. I can't remember the name, but I had 3 books, had my diary, a week.
Going off grid.
Off grid. I just wanted to be in nature.
Did you not even take a phone with you at all?
I had like a 3310, like an old sort of
Right.
like burner phone,
Sure.
just in case, obviously for the essentials, because my family thought it was crazy that I was going on my own. But I was like, well, I'm 28 years old. I'm sure it's fine. So went to Slovenia, stayed at this place, and you could rent a bike. So I had a bike, and I'm not a cyclist. I really don't cycle. I don't really know how to. But where I was, because there's so many marshlands and there's so much beautiful nature, you do kind of, if you want to get anywhere, you have to cycle.
Yeah.
So every day I'd wake up, I'd have a little bit of bread, and I'd have coffee in my little cabin. I would look at all the geese, and then I'd get on my bike and I would cycle. And then I would occasionally stop at the side of the road, unfold my big map, get my highlighter, and then someone would say, hello, are you lost? And I'd go, hello, I don't know where I am. They'll go, oh, where are you going? And I go, this place. And they go, this way. And then I'd be like, da-da. And sometimes you'd end up on a motorway and you go, I've gotten onto the wrong road. And but other than that, I was cycling on it was a very cycle-friendly place, and there wasn't as much traffic as London. So in the space of like 4 days, my thighs feel 3 times the size. My whole body feels incredible, because I'm just cycling throughout the day, going to look at all these different birds, going to these different marshlands. And then in the evening, I catch a bus into Ljubljana, which was the capital city. And I'm pretty sure I've said it correctly. And I just go. And the great thing about traveling on your own is that you could always get a nice table in a restaurant.
Oh,
because they've always got a table like at the bar, or they've got a table. They've always got like an odd table that they can fit one person.
You just walk past all of the people waiting, and you just go straight in, sit at the bar. Yeah.
Yeah, and also you can have your total own choice. Like, I suddenly realised that it wasn't about me going, oh, what are you in the mood for?
Yep.
I was like, I'm really in the mood for this. I'm going to go here. And then if I left somewhere and I was still hungry, I'd go into another place and get a pudding. It was just like the best, best holiday.
Yeah, it is.
And this is sounding like the absolute dream. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
One of the things that I might say will sound mildly politically incorrect, but it's just because the reference, in order for you to understand, just as heads up, I was trying to get to these 3 very rare lakes, which apparently had the highest numbers of incredibly rare birds. And apparently there were like hundreds of different types of bird species came and drank at these 3 lakes. And it looked like it was about a 90-minute cycle to get there. Yeah. And I sort of prepped. I had a bag. I put loads of food in it, my water, etc. And I was like, I'm ready for this. Let's go. So I cycled, and the cycle there was pretty much fine until we got to the final bit. And so you imagine this very empty road in the middle of like dense hills of forest on either side. And you can either keep cycling off straight up, or there's a tiny little tiny sort of weird route, or there's another route that slopes down to what looks like a hospital. And the hospital isn't labeled, like I didn't see it on my map.
Okay.
The map wasn't very clear, and I couldn't work out exactly what route I needed to get to these 3 legs. So I thought, well, I don't have Jeep. So it just made complete sense. Cycle down to this abandoned looking building. And it was the definition of, in old 70s films, like the old mental asylum. Yeah. Like that's the politically correct thing. But like that's exactly what it looked like in every shape. And when I turned up, there was a young man all in white just walking around on his own. And I was like, hi. And he didn't say anything. And he was just looking at me. And I was like, hello. And I was like, and he just looked at me and then started screaming. Because it was actually a hospital. It was like a hospital/learning facility. So someone came out and they were like, and I was trying to say English. And then someone was like, English. Ran. And this woman came out and she was like, I speak English, little boy. I speak English.
Little boy.
I don't know why they thought I was a boy, but they were like, I speak English, little boy. And it was a hospital for young people of various different bits and pieces. But I was in there and everyone was wearing white, which made it feel like you'd walked into the Twilight Zone.
wow.
It's like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, all the patients, everyone was in white. And except for this lady who spoke English. And she was like, so where do you want to go? And I showed her the map. I was like, I'm trying to get in. And she was like, oh, it's so easy. You go down that little dirt road over behind the hospital, tiny dirt road, and then park your bike, and then you can go up. And then one of the children shouted, I can't remember if they said it in English. It was translated. But anyway, the child shouted, be aware of the bears.
Oh, okay then.
And then everyone laughed. And I was like, oh, what do you say? And he said, be aware of the bears. Be aware of the bears. And I was just like, laughing, thinking that they were joking. And then as I left, the woman ran out and she went, no, do be aware of the bears. Now, but the thing is, we were in central Slovenia. We're not on the border of different countries. If it was like between Italy, you'd that would make sense. You'd have bears. But this didn't make any sense that there would be bears.
Right.
So I was thinking they must just be taking the piss.
Oh no.
So I go into, and I take my bike with me because there wasn't really anywhere to store it. So I was like, I take my bike, go to the first lake. The first lake's really nice. Keep walking up. Second lake's really, really pretty. And I'm looking and I'm like, I'll go. So I've spent probably about 20 minutes, like really not a huge amount of time. And as I'm going up and I'm really in the thick of the woods, and you know when you're a little bit on edge anyway?
Yeah.
I just heard a distance away, but not far enough. I started to see trees move, like trees, like, you know, the tops of trees moving. And I heard
Jurassic Park.
And I heard
Oh
my God.
And I looked around me and I sent a text message on my phone to the person I was dating saying, I think there's a bear where I am.
Right.
And this person rarely ever replied to me. He was just like, just do your thing and we'll chat when you get back. He replied straight away and he's like, if you are joking, that's not funny. But if there is, get the fuck out there, because he travelled loads. And I just stood there and I could just hear.
I mean, can I just say, Alf, this visceral bear noise that you're creating is amazing.
Yeah. It is very good.
Where is that coming from? I'd be scared.
I am loving the sound effect.
That's me. Quite simply, I got on my bike and I cycled as fast as I fucking could, because you can't outrun a bear and you can't outcycle a bear. So my logic was, just get out. So I got out and I cycled all the way home. And when I got there, I went back to the lady who ran the place that I was staying at. And I said, oh, you know, I went to this place and they made a joke about bears and I heard this. And she was like, oh, yes, there is a huge bear problem there now. She said, also, it's probably quite dangerous you went because they've sent a lot of people out there to shoot bears. So the fact you were there on your own is incredibly dangerous, because if they didn't know, they could have shot you. And I was thinking in my head, none of this sounds sensible. But it's because more and more people have been moving into the mountains and moving into the hills, and more people have then been littering and leaving stuff.
Yeah.
The bears are now traveling closer and closer and closer into suburban areas to get their food. So they basically, because so many people had moved into the outer areas of sort of these hills and mountains, I'm not sure if they count as mountains, they were just really big, steep hills. Yeah. But because so many people have moved there, there's now better pickings for the bears. Yeah. So that's why they travelled in. So I was like, oh, right. And she was like, and it's like, it's good that you didn't, you know, I assume you didn't bring any food or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I had loads of food. And she was like, well, they could probably smell that.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, oh, right. And she was like, so you just went into a forest with loads of food in your rucksack? Didn't tell anyone where you were going.
A walking picnic basket for the bear.
For Yogi.
All of your cycling that you've been doing these past few days, you said how like your thighs were 3 times the size as they were. It was leading up to this moment.
That's it. It's fate.
Yeah. You were in training and you didn't even know it.
Mm-hmm. The thing is as well, I remember that whole day, but I do not remember the lakes. That's the fun part of the story. I cannot remember. I can remember the hospital. I can remember the boy who I saw, who's like, I can remember so many, because they felt like something out of a dream. It felt so David Lynch-esque, really. Like the whole structure and like the way the architecture of the whole place looked. Like, you know, just getting to this forest. But the whole, like, the thing that I didn't even see any birds.
Oh, no.
Like, that's the thing. It's just like, oh, for goodness sake, Emily Ann, what were you doing? but I regret nothing. Such a great holiday. Bloody love Slovenia. Honestly, people should all go. It's so wicked.
Just stay away from the woods.
And I'm completely with you on travelling on your own as well.
Mhm.
It's an experience that I think people think they're going to be lonely, but it's just not. I love travelling on my own.
It's good to feel lonely as well. Like, it's a healthy feeling, I think, sometimes to be aware of that feeling.
I think it's total freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt when I went, totally free.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, there's none of this, okay, so I want to do this today. You said you want to do that. Right, how are we going to compromise on this? There's no compromising. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. Where's your favourite place you've ever travelled to?
So I did a road trip around America on my own for 5 weeks. It was just basically whatever I wanted to do for 5 weeks.
Do you think about that still a lot?
She talks about it every day.
A hell of a lot, yeah. All the time. And I'm trying to plan my next one as well. So
that's so lovely.
Yeah. No, I do think that everybody, obviously I know that everybody can't, but if you are in a position where you can, you should travel on your own. Even if it's just for a weekend, if you don't feel confident enough to do it more than that. Oh, it's just a different feeling. There's like lots of little things as well that I think when you first travel on your own, you may not realise. Like you going into a restaurant or something. After the first week, whenever I went into a restaurant, I was like, no, I don't want to sit at a table. I want to sit at the bar. Because then either there's going to be other people that are on their own that, you can chat to, or at minimum, the barmen are going to chat to you.
Yeah.
So it's not like you sat in silence all the time. And people are more inclined to talk to you because they don't think, oh, they're in a group, so they don't want to be bothered. I'm not going to bother a group of people.
Yeah.
If you're on your own, people will just be like, oh, so what are you doing then? And they'll just start chatting to you.
You just got to be open to every experience.
Yeah.
I remember once, me and a boyfriend, I was 19, we went on holiday to Croatia.
He was 50.
He was 39.
Oh, right.
He was 39. And I remember we went to this odd bar and there was this old man who was there who we just started chatting to us. And he's like, I've come here every single year. This is where I came with my ex-wife. And we saw him the next night and we chatted to him, and he always had some interesting stories. He didn't really care about us. He just wanted us to listen to his stories, but he was interesting.
Yeah.
And then the next day he says, tomorrow morning at 9, I will pick you up in my boat.
Oh.
I will see you at the harbour. And we were like, okay. And so the next day I said to my partner, I said, are you sure we should probably notify someone we're going with this. I don't think we know his name. So I remember writing down this thing saying, if we are not found, we went to this bar the day before. This is the man. We met him and he said, and we waited. We were like, he's not going to turn up. And then this boat turned up called the Prowler.
Oh
and
my God.
And he was just in Speedos.
No.
And it was like, he just picked us up and he just took us around. He showed us an island where there used to be a nunnery, and then they found loads of skulls of baby boys' heads around the bottom. Brilliant. He took us around loads of places, and then he just parked the boat for ages, and me and partner just swam around. And then my partner at the time just turned to me and was like, do you think he wants us to have sex with him? I don't really know.
I do now.
Yeah. I didn't until you just said it.
I was like, I don't really know what to do. And we were just like, we just swam. And then we got back in the boat, and then he drove us home. And then we said, well, we'll see you tonight, maybe at the bar. And he was like, no, you will not. And then we never saw him again.
So you were the problem. He was fine.
What on earth?
I think we were the problem.
What was the boat like? Was it like a rusty old nail, or was it nice?
No, it was actually nice, but you know what I mean? It was like a sort of, I don't know what to call it, like a Jaws boat, just like a normal boat that you'd see in Jaws.
Yeah.
I love that he's parked up the boat and you've just jumped off and gone for a swim, because at that point he could have just floored it.
I mean, yeah, it's just funny how you don't even consider these things.
Throw caution to the wind.
You do. You just think, well, I'm on holiday, aren't I? And I can't be hypersensitive to these things. Not everyone's out to do bad things to you. So you just put your faith in these strangers, and it's just like, no, this is definitely when I die.
Don't want to upset the guy.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You hate to be rude.
You do want to say yes to every moment, but you've got to be so aware, and especially being a young woman traveling, like the amount of times I've been very, very cautious, and people would say, oh, you turned down a really exciting opportunity then. I'm like, but the risks, and people are so easy at lying, and you just can't know.
Well, I tell you, Alf, I was lured into a situation. I was seduced by the idea of sharing chicken wings and ended up on a date.
See, you say lured.
Yeah, I was
And
lured.
I was like, where are you going with this? I know this story. And it ended a lot better than it started with you saying lured.
I mean, I thought we were about to go somewhere really, really quite frightening. But I was like, wow, this podcast is now going to be like information. This is who you reach out to. This is how you deal with.
Oh, God, it wasn't. No, absolutely not.
If you've been affected by anything you've heard on the Misadventures podcast.
All I'm saying is, if a gentleman invites you to share a bucket of chicken wings with him in Memphis and he's from Chicago, say no. Because it'll take you to some bar
He doesn't just
and
want chicken
be rude
wings.
to the waitresses and try and show off. And it's just not very fun.
I remember doing a gig in Berlin with my mate Sam. We went on a holiday to Berlin, the two of us, for like 3 nights, and we decided to do a comedy gig at like a basic open mic night. And we met this guy, and he was like, "So we are all off to a party now. Do you want to come?" And we'd heard that like Berlin parties were like really cool.
Yeah, they're meant to be quite wild. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were like, yeah, we're gonna like cool. We are getting an Uber now to the party.
Yeah.
So if you want to come, it'd be great. And we turned up at this this abandoned industrial wasteland on the outskirts of Berlin. And I was thinking, this does not look like a party. And the guy was like, it's on the top floor. And we get in to this building, which sort of looks like a Guardian scheme, you know, like those old buildings where you get people to stay in it so nobody robs it. We got in there, we got in the lift, and we got into the lift at the same time as a woman got into the lift, entirely naked,
right,
holding on to a man with a collar around his neck. And I thought, they must be going to the same party, unless there's another party. And we turn up, and there's loads of people dressed without trousers on.
Were they wearing a top?
They were wearing tops, but no trousers.
And strange way to do it.
And there was this doorman who was really quite intense, and he was like dressed like a police officer, like a German police officer. And he was like checking everyone for drugs. He was like really looking you in the eye, shining your torch, like accusing you your pupils were too big. Like he was kind of scary. And I was thinking, why is there a doorman at this party? And we went into this room, and they were like, yeah, it's a penis party. And there was a woman wearing a gas mask with a penis, like a fake dildo gaffer taped to the mouth bit. And she was being gaffer taped to the wall. What? Gaffer taped to the wall, holding a giant dildo.
Oh my!
And there was a room with loads of pictures of British MPs, and there was loads of penises, just like fake, like penises hanging from the ceiling. There was a masturbation corner.
Oh no!
And there was a giant penis pinata, like a huge one. And do you know what was really weird about it? Was there was no music. That was the bit that made it really awkward. So people are just like chatting and networking without trousers on, and there's no music. And so me and Sam went to the bar and we're like, well, let's just get drunk and let's have fun.
Did you feel a bit overdressed?
Yeah, it was like really odd. Like, and loads of the comedians from the open mic night were there. And they were like, oh yeah, this is like where everybody in the Berlin comedy scene is. And I was like, is it? And then the guy who was the doorman, it turns out he wasn't actually a doorman. He was a live artist. And then he came in and did this dance piece with the 5 naked women. And then they masturbated the piñata, and then it sprayed cream over them.
What? Right. When we had our chat before doing this recording, why was this story not one of them that sprung to mind?
There's so many weird stories that happen. Like, you know what I mean? Like the story about the guy, the Prowler guy from Croatia. Like, it doesn't stand out as like a top memory from that holiday, because I'm like, oh, that was my first boyfriend holiday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's sort of, you think about everything in terms of top liners, like headers, like Run Away with Your Scuba Diving Instructor is more like dynamic than...
But a penis pinata though.
Yeah, well, in truth, I just completely forgot about it when you rang.
Blocked out that memory.
Because arguably, based on the content of this chat, I should have only really been chatting to you about the Isle of Wight.
I mean, I've got a sneaky suspicion you're going to be our first double guest, to be honest. I feel there's so much more.
Yeah, I think there's going to have to be more.
Well, I would feel so honoured because I'm about to go camping soon in the summer, so who knows what's going to happen in the Lake District.
Fantastic. But you've got a boyfriend now, though,
I
haven't
do
you?
indeed.
And how old's he?
Oh, God.
No, actually, this one's a good one. He was one of my students.
Oh,
You're going the other way now. Don't you teach year 7?
the tables are turned. Yeah.
I say that provocatively. He's 36.
Okay.
And he did one of my comedy courses.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then we were friends for ages. And then he realised it was easier to go out with me rather than pay for mentoring.
Smart man.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Honestly, I think you've got some absolute corkers, honestly, there. But what I want to know is, you're going camping. Have you got any plans to go further afield? Have you got any abroad holidays that you are itching to get onto? Where do you want to go?
I love your 5-week idea. That sounds amazing. I really want to go to Maine because I'm a massive Stephen King fan.
Oh, yes.
And all of his stories are set in Maine.
Yeah.
And also it's got the highest number of shipwrecks. So I'd really like to go to Maine and do that, or go all the way through Italy. But Italy or Maine, I think those are my two.
Oh, wow. Honestly, Alf, it's been such a funny and lovely.
I feel like I just did loads of talking.
You did, and that's exactly what we want. It was brilliant.
Thank you so much for letting me just remember some of the happiest days of my life.
I feel like we've just scratched the surface.
Oh, yes. We're going to have you back.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to go now and have a bath, I think, because I smell like a trout.
Oh, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to go and have a bath.
We are such good future friends.
I'm still saying this is part 1. Look out for part 2 coming in a few months' time.
Now we've heard all about the Isle of Wight.
I'm exhausted. I think we need to go on a break because after that, I don't know what's left.
It was a lot. I mean, the Isle of Wight stories, it was nice, wasn't it? It was nice. And it was like,
It started off, yes, very nice.
Yeah.
Bit of reminiscing.
And then, like, God, I'm not sure if we hold any responsibility for the things that have been declared in this podcast.
Yeah.
We don't normally give advice out on this. Well, we say we don't normally give advice. We end up giving tips and things out. Basically, if you go on holiday and you are still a minor, please do not go and hang around a scuba diving hut with some dude that's 30.
No.
Tell your parents.
If you are 14 and a strange scuba diving man offers to take you to the oxygen hut, just say no.
Yeah, just say no. Golden rule. Just say no.
I mean, there's so many. Don't get in a boat with a strange man who could just abandon you in the middle of the ocean.
Don't go into a forest with a backpack full of food where there is bears. So many do not.
Elf Lyons is blazing her way through life, testing out all these precarious situations so nobody else has to.
Yeah.
And for that, we are thankful.
Indeed. So as we said, this is actually the last episode of this season of the Misadventures podcast, but we will be back for season 2. Stamps is going to go away, and I'm sure Mrs. Stamps is very pleased about getting you back for a couple of weeks.
I don't know about pleased. I think she's quite happy that this has been occupying me for the past few months.
Probably. Tell her she's welcome.
But, we've got some great guests lined up for season 2.
We have. We have already got some superb people raring to go, and I cannot wait. Thank you so much for listening to our episodes. Alpha's got loads of stuff lined up that you can go and see her, so check her out on theelflyons.com. All of her dates are on that, and also follow her on social media, on Instagram. Show her some love. Show her lots of love. She deserves it, unless you're 20 years older than her, in which case, steer clear. Stay away from her. Rafi, same time go next away. Season. Latest people. Find us on Instagram, Misadventures in Travel. Follow us, like our posts, support us, and if you've got any stories, any misadventures of your own, DM us, let us know, and we could share them on the podcast.